This evening, driver's license for sale. 4 persons before the court after a man was busted with bogus minibus license. Ghana police force is still investigating the details surrounding Mariam Edwards' murder. Norton street man busted with ecstasy pills in Berbice. In the region, indigenous protesters block roads in Ecuador over rising costs. And internationally, Trump knew there was no election fraud. January 6 panel. Greetings and welcome to another edition of Channel 2 Headline News Updates. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. 4 persons have been released on bail after a man was busted with a falsified driver's license. Esther Sobers explains.
Allegedly faking a driver's license has landed 3 employees of the Guyana Revenue Authority and a police special constable in the Georgetown Magistrate Court to answer charges of computer-related forgery in connection with the issuance of a driver's license on Monday, June 13th. The accused are Regal Jack of Unity Place, South Romville, Georgetown, Akeem Martin of Old Road, Denamstel, and Ruth Williams of Sarah Lodge, Strodeville, West Coast, Darara, and Special Police Constable Winston Small of Avocado Place, East Romville, Georgetown. According to Special Organized Crime Unit, Martin and Williams were jointly charged, whilst Jack and Small were separately charged. They denied the charges that were read to them, and bail was granted in a sum of $100,000 each. According to reports from SOCU and GRA in October 2021, Small arranged for Sequan Caesar, a minibus conductor who was working with Anthony Solomon Jacobs, a bus driver, to obtain a driver's license for him at a cost of $83,000. Small allegedly told Caesar that he could use Anthony's driver's license and that he would have someone modify the photograph. As a result, the conductor reportedly took an image of the bus driver's license, and the two went to a clerk at the Mirage building in Georgetown on November 1st, 2021, and informed her that Caesar, the bus conductor, is Anthony Solomon Jacobs, the bus driver. The men reportedly told the clerk that Caesar had lost his driver's license and identification card and requested for an affidavit to take to GRA to process his driver's license. Based on request, the clerk drafted an affidavit in favor of Anthony Solomon Jacobs and took it to the Justice of Peace, who did not question but signed it. Small accompanied Caesar to GRA with affidavit on November 1st, 2021, when Jack, a lodgement clerk, took Caesar's photo using the license revenue processing system. Jack then processed a driver's license for Caesar in the name of Anthony Solomon Jacobs, using Jacobs' driver's license information. The driver's license was issued to Caesar, but he lost it 2 weeks after. As a result, on November 16, 2021, Small and Caesar got a new affidavit and returned to GRA, where Martin, also a GRA lodgement clerk, used the LRPS to take Caesar's photograph and place it to Anthony Solomon Jacobs' license. Caesar was issued a second license in the name of someone else. However, on January 25, 2022, Caesar was arrested for a breach of a traffic offense. The traffic rank that charged Caesar questioned him about the driver's license since he was acquainted with his identity. Caesar later admitted that he paid money to get a bogus document. He was charged with forgery and uttering fake documents. Caesar pleaded guilty to both offenses and was charged when he appeared in court. Small, Martin, Williams, and Jack were later detained and charged as a result of the inquiry. The hearing is scheduled for August 29, 2022. For Channel 2 Headline News, Esther Sobers.
Thanks, Esther. 3 men have been hauled before the Vigilance Magistrates Court and slapped with charges of break and entry and larceny and remanded to prison on Monday, June 13th. The men are 29-year-old Simon Marlon Campbell, 26-year-old Simon Kieran Williams, and 29-year-old security officer Trevon Williams, all of Annandale South, East Coast, Demerara. The men appeared before Magistrate Fabio Azoran pleaded not guilty. The court heard that between June 3rd and 4th, the trio broke into a barn belonging to Junior Hope, a businessman from Nunparal, East Coast, Demerara, and carted off with a quantity of hair braid and weave worth $5.4 million. The bond was secured around 5 p.m. on June 3rd. The following day, around 11 a.m., Hope discovered the front door open and the place ransacked and several items missing. The man subsequently made a report to the police station. The matter has been adjourned to June 23, 2022. A quantity of ecstasy with an estimated street value of over $500,000 Ghana dollars was discovered in a vehicle in Berbice. Dale Jarvis has more details.
Officers with the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit and Guyana Revenue Authority enforcement officers conducted a joint operation at number 79 Village Corriverton, Berbice, when they intercepted a motor vehicle on Monday, June 13th. A subsequent search of the vehicle led to the discovery of a quantity of pinkish pills suspected to be ecstasy. The driver of the vehicle, 49-year-old Christopher Dexter Garraway of Norton Street Lodge, Georgetown, was arrested and escorted to the Kano headquarters with the suspected narcotics, which tested positive for ecstasy. The 4 parcels containing 400 pills weighed over 150 grams with an estimated street value of 600,000 Guyana dollars. He remains in custody pending charges. Reporting for Headline News Update, Dale Jarvis.
Thanks, Dale. Stick around after the break. Ghana Police Force continues its investigations into the details surrounding the murder of Mariam Edwards, and CES led beach cleanup at the seawalls at Kingston. But before that, here's the bridge retraction schedule.
At John Lewis Styles, we carry only first quality, men's and women's clothing, footwear, and accessories. As authorized dealers, our items come directly from the manufacturing brands, and are available in all sizes and colors. What we sell was never on display in another store. It's time you know the truth about what you buy. Come visit us on Waterloo Street. John Lewis Styles. Simply different.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again. Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
They say that when it hits you. A feeling so strong that it's impossible not to give in to a juicy piece of KFC. To feel elevated by the aroma and to free fall into its exciting flavor. Some call it love, attraction, desire. We call it KFC. Ignite your senses with KFC.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
Welcome back. The Ghana Police Force continues to investigate the motives behind the heinous murder of Mariam Edwards. Esther Soberts has more.
Mariam Edwards, also known as Mary, a 25-year-old mother of 2, suspected to have been robbed, sexually assaulted, and strangled to death, died from asphyxiation caused by hand strangulation, according to an autopsy. The tragic incident occurred at the Komong Bagdam Puruni River in Region 7, Kayuni Mazaruni, on Wednesday, June 8, 2022. Hair belonging to the woman was recovered in her camp during the search. The searching determined that the suspect, Kieran Hope of Boxton, East Coast Darara, was the last person to see the woman after sending an elderly guy to her camp to buy smokes for her. When the woman was alone, he dragged the woman by her hair, took her into the bush, robbed, raped, and strangled her, and then dumped her body into the river. The suspect then stole over $280,000 and 6 pennyweights of gold. The individual fled the camp after committing the horrible murder, attempting to reach Papi Show Bagdam landing, located along the Middle Mazruni River in Region 7. During his journey, however, he was captured by several Brazilian guys who searched him and retrieved the money and gold that he stole from Edwards. According to further information stated, the men then tied the suspect up with a rope and took him back to the camp, after which they began to beat him. The police has since sent the file to the Director of Public Prosecutions for advice. The suspect is still in police custody as investigations continue. For Channel 2 Headline News, Esther Sobers.
Thanks, Esther. Detectives are investigating the death of 28-year-old Alan Padmore, called Jockey Boy, a laborer of Armdale Village, Bushlot, West Coast, Berbice, whose lifeless body was discovered by his reputed wife on Tuesday, June 13th. Padmore was found dead in a hammock at his residence with a piece of hammock's cloth wrapped around his neck. Enquiries disclosed that Padmore lived with his reputed wife, 4-year-old son, and his father-in-law. According to the man's wife, he left for work around 8 a.m. on June 12th. The woman related that she last spoke to the now dead man around 9 a.m. on the said day via video chat. The woman further told detectives that after he had not returned home, she retired to bed with her son around 8:30 p.m. that evening. The woman said around 8 a.m. the following morning, she awoke and found Padmore lying motionless in a hammock under the shed with a piece of hammock's cloth wrapped around his neck. The police were informed and subsequently visited the scene, where the man's body was examined and an impression was seen on his neck suspected to be caused by the piece of hammock's cloth. No other marks of violence were evident on the exposed parts of his body. The deceased's hands were swabbed and his nails clippings were taken for DNA purposes. The body was escorted to the 4th Wellington Hospital, where an official pronouncement of death was given. The body is presently at the Bailey's Funeral Home awaiting a post-mortem examination. Investigations are ongoing. About 25 employees from Sustainable Environmental Solutions led a beach cleanup at the seawalls at Kingston. More from Esther Sobers.
On Saturday, June 11, 2022, a strong team of 25 employees from Sustainable Environmental Solutions led a beach cleanup at the seawalls at Kingston, Georgetown. SES is a Guyanese company delivering waste and environmental solutions to its clients, based predominantly in the oil and gas sector. Also joining the SES team were a multi-talented group of third-year communication students from the University of Guyana. Over 25 bags of solid waste materials, including plastic bottles and food boxes deemed unsafe for the environment, were collected. Chris Clark, general manager of SES, said the team passionately believes in delivering a cleaner environment and by cleaning the seaside of rubbish. It hopes it would encourage people to take care of their environment. The beach cleanup was the idea of SES HSE lead Devon Agard, who organized the whole event. SES handles hazardous and non-hazardous waste mainly from the oil and gas industry and has been operating in Guyana for the past 8 months. SES is a Guyanese company with over 93% of its employees from Guyana. The training on how to protect environment as well as operate safely is at the forefront of the company. Corporate social responsibility is very important to SES, and the company is examining other ways it can make a difference. Clark further noted that the company is looking at partnering with the Ministry of Education and the University of Guyana to offer lectures on health and safety to primary students so that they can understand this very important concept at an early age. For Channel 2 Headline News, Esther Sobers.
Thanks, Esther. Don't go away after the break. Trump knew there was no election fraud, January 6 panel, and Israel wants complete control of Palestinian land, UN report.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 4-6 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brickdam and White Castle Fish Shop, be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
Welcome back. Here now is the Sobers with today's regional and international news.
Good evening, and now we take a look at news in the region and around the world. Indigenous groups have set up roadblocks on highways in Ecuador in protest of rising gasoline prices and the economic policies of right-wing President Lasso. Al Jazeera's Lucia Newman reports.
Police used tear gas and stun grenades to break up a march by students and trade unions in the capital Quito. The protesters want the government to reduce the cost of fuel and to reverse the privatization of public services. Our Latin America editor, Lucia Newman, reports.
This is the beginning of a national strike that could paralyze Ecuador.
The mobilization is national, it's regional, and the mobilization is indefinite. If the president gives us answers today, then we will stop. If the president does not give answers to any of our demands, then we will continue indefinitely.
Demonstrations led by Ecuador's powerful indigenous confederation almost 3 years ago nearly overthrew then-President Lenín Moreno, forcing him to backtrack on plans to raise fuel prices. Today, their demands are far greater. Not only do these protesters want fuel prices lowered and frozen, but they also want the same for essential goods and services.
We are literally starving to death. There is no work. Farm products are minimized. There is no proper support from the government. With the rise in fuel prices, everything is more expensive.
The government doesn't hear us. Does it hear the poor farmers? No, it doesn't. Does it know the price of fertilizers? No, and our products are already cheap. How are we going to survive to feed our children?
Roads are being blocked in at least 10 of Ecuador's 24 provinces. Conservative President Guillermo Lasso says he will not tolerate further disruptions.
Just now, as we were beginning to get back on our feet from the pandemic, we cannot allow political groups who want to destabilize Ecuador and profit from the chaos paralyze our country.
The government is already struggling to control rampant violence and drug trafficking amid a severe economic crisis. But unless there's a breakthrough, the strike by the well-organized Indigenous Confederation, with the support of other trade unions, could present the most serious challenge to Ecuador's stability. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera.
In the second of several hearings aiming to present the findings of a congressional panel investigating the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol, lawmakers and witnesses stressed that the former President Donald Trump knew that his election fraud allegations were false. Al Jazeera Heidi Zu Castro reports.
The January 6th committee opened public hearing number 2 with a focus on election night 2020 inside the White House, where Donald Trump and his advisors watched the election returns with increasing worry.
The Fox News Decision Desk is calling Arizona for Joe Biden. That is a big get for the Biden campaign.
Did that shift the atmosphere, the attitude in the White House?
Completely. It was becoming clear that the race would not be called on election night.
Witnesses say Trump was livid and ignored their advice to wait before making a public statement. They said he instead turned to his private attorney, Rudy Giuliani, who was described as drunk.
The mayor was definitely intoxicated. Mayor Giuliani was saying, "We want it. They're stealing it from us. Where'd all the votes come from? We need to go say that we won." And essentially that anyone who didn't agree with that position was being weak.
A defiant Trump then declared his false victory.
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
This was the Fox News political editor, later fired from his job after calling Arizona for Biden.
After the election, as of November 7th, in your judgment, what were the chances of President Trump winning the election?
After that point?
Yes.
None.
In the weeks that followed, Trump would continue to spread the lies of widespread voter fraud, despite being told by Attorney General William Barr that the claim was bogus.
I was somewhat demoralized because I thought, boy, if he really believes this stuff, he has, lost contact with he's become detached from reality.
Over and over, witnesses testified that Trump refused to accept his election defeat, despite the growing evidence otherwise.
Not only was there not evidence of 8,000 dead voters voting in Pennsylvania, there wasn't evidence of 8.
The former president's media campaign spread the election falsehoods, invigorating his base. Supporters donated $250 million to Trump's so-called Election Defense Fund. Investigators testified the fund didn't exist and that some of the money went to Trump's hotel collection and the event company that organized the January 6th rally.
Not only was there the big lie, there was the big ripoff.
The committee plans another half-dozen public hearings to connect the election lies with the violence of January 6th. They say evidence will show that Trump tried to corrupt the Justice Department, and when that failed, assembled the mob that would try to keep him in power by force. Heidi Jo Castro, Al Jazeera, Washington.
And internationally, an independent commission of inquiry set up by the UN Human Rights Council after the 2021 Israeli assault on the besieged Gaza Strip said Israel must do more than end occupation of land that Palestinians leaders want for a future state. Al Jazeera Bernard Smith reports.
Demolitions of Palestinian homes, forced displacement, settlement construction, and the blockade of Gaza. All this and a failure to hold Israel accountable are why there are recurring cycles of violence in the region. That's according to the first report from the UN's International Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory.
Impunity is a key factor fueling conflict and violence, compromising chances for sustainable peace, coexistence, and ultimately security. It exonerates the perpetrators of past violations and abuses of human rights and international humanitarian law and encourages future violations and abuses.
The inquiry was prompted by the Gaza war in May 2021. 250 Palestinians in Gaza and 13 people in Israel were killed. In the most recent spate of violence, which included the killing of Al Jazeera correspondent Shireen Abu Akleh, the Palestinian representative on the Human Rights Council says Israel is following its standard practice of trying to block any investigation into her death.
There have been calls for an independent investigation into Shireen's death, but they have come up against a campaign of fake information from those who don't want one. This is how the occupying power treats the Commission of Inquiry as well. The occupying power has stoked the fury of the Palestinian people through its colonial occupation, racial segregation, and apartheid.
I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Israel.
Israel boycotted the inquiry and barred entry to its investigators. The Foreign Ministry said the report was biased and tainted with hatred for the State of Israel. The US representative said the Human Rights Council gives disproportionate scrutiny to Israel.
To be clear,
this latest report goes on top of a pile of hundreds of others done by international organisations shining a light on Israeli conduct during 55 years of occupation. They have little practical effect on the ground. Israeli settlements continue to expand, and there's little accountability for when security forces kill Palestinians. Bernard Smith, Al Jazeera, Occupied East Jerusalem.
That is it for today's regional and international news. Here now to 3 the weather forecast. And that is all for this edition of Channel 2 Headline News Updates. Tune in on Wednesday, 7 p.m. for another episode. Be sure to subscribe, like, and follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Until then, please take care of yourself and each other.